Maybe big data has gotten too big. Whether you're a B2B marketer or a consumer brand, your data needs to be viable, relevant, and accessible so that Stirista can help you retain customers, acquire customers, and make it personal.
Welcome to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista, probably the most entertaining marketing podcast you're going to put in your ear. I'm Vin, the producer here at Stirista. The goal of this podcast is to chat with industry leaders and get their takes on the current challenges in the market. And we'll have a little fun along the way. In today's episode, Casey Hurbis, Chief Marketing Officer at Rocket Mortgage, chats with us about being bold with taking risks and investing in new technology to help build a brand. Give it a listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Stirista's The Marketing Stir. I feel like it has been such a long time since I've talked to you, but that's impossible. I come to you every single week. Thank you so much for listening, my friends. It's been great. Thank you also. I love the emails that I've been getting. I also love it's conference season. People are back out there. And guess what? Thank you for coming up to me and telling me how much you love the Marketing Stir. That's a first for me. That rarely happens. A little bit in New York City because of the stand-up comedy thing, but very minor. My wife hates it, by the way, when people come up to me. I'm like, come on, it's so rare. Leave me alone. Anyway, it's so good to be here. I am riding solo today, ladies and gentlemen. My Commander-in-Chief, my CEO, Mr. AJ Gupta, is not here. I believe he is in the Boston area. Close enough to New York City, you'd think he'd come in for a visit. You know, I sound like my mother, would it kill you to call? Anyway, it's great to be back. Let's pause just for a second to talk about Stirista. We only talk about Stirista for like 13 seconds. 13 seconds. Stirista, we are a marketing technology company. We own our own B2B data, B2C data, and our own technology. We help customers get new customers through our email marketing platform, through our DSP, through Connected TV, OTT, display. Email me, vincent@stirista.com. You do email me for that, inquiring about the company. You also email me about guest suggestions. You also email me to speak into the microphone a little bit closer. I'm like, I'm pretty much eating this thing. So thank you for the feedback. It is great to be here, ladies and gentlemen. Also, quick announcement, you will also be able to see me May 3rd. This episode, it's going to be right before the day after. It airs May 2nd. May 3rd, you will see me on Comedy and Cocktails. That is a whole other show that I've done in the past. Comedy and Cocktails. No, this is Coffee and Conversions. CNC, nonetheless. CNC Music Factory. Remember them? They were great. What happened to them? Comedy is not what I'm doing on there, although maybe a fun anecdote, but Coffee and Conversions with the great Meg Ugenti. She was a past guest, so tune into that. There'll be a webinar for that. There's a link, you'll see it, but that is where I'll be, May 3rd. Also, my wife's birthday, May 3rd. I haven't forgotten, Lauren. You're the best. You don't listen to this, but it's okay. Also, ladies and gentlemen, an amazing guest today, an amazing guest. I'm so glad he is here. I talked to him before. We never met in person. That'll change. We'll bond over football. We'll bond over our love of Tracy Morgan. We'll get to that in a moment. But ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from Rocket Mortgage. Yeah, that Rocket Mortgage. If you don't know who they are, you live under a rock, pun intended. But the Chief Marketing Officer, Casey Hurbis. What's going on, Casey?
Hey, Vince. Good to see you again here again today. Sorry, AJ's not here, but that way we'll be able to bang out more questions and spread some love and marketing stir knowledge. So thanks for having me here today.
Yeah, no, it's good to see you again, Casey. I love, your love of sports. I see if you're tuning in to us on YouTube, most of you consume us via audio, and great. We appreciate that as well. He's got the Barry Sanders Detroit Lions helmet, the legend. 9 years, that's all he needed.
The GOAT.
The GOAT, I think so. A lot of people, him, Dickerson, Peyton. I like Sanders. Sanders was like, I'm going to rock this out in 9 years. Watch, Casey, we'll get an email. I'll get an email, not you. People are like, what about Emmitt Smith?
Exactly.
Boy, Cowboy
right.
fans. Yeah, they're interesting people, Cowboy fans. But I love the Aaron Donald helmet back there. Rocket Mortgage, sponsoring Super Bowl. That was last year's, or the year before, technically, right? But anyway, It's great to see you here. Casey, let's get right into it because Rocket Mortgage, people certainly know Rocket Mortgage, but in your words, talk about Rocket Mortgage and then your role as Chief Marketing Officer. We'd love to
Yeah.
learn more about that.
Yeah, I joined Rocket Companies, which Rocket Mortgage is part of Rocket Companies. It'll be 6 years actually, next week. And it's been a wild, crazy, awesome ride. Prior to that, I spent 25 years in automotive. I'm born and raised a Detroit guy. And when you're born and raised in Detroit, you work in automotive. I mean, right next to your binky, you get a set of car keys. And so everyone's destined to work in automotive. And I did that for 25 years. And lo and behold, I was blessed enough to be offered the opportunity to move about 35 miles down I-75 to downtown Detroit and join what was then, Quicken Loans, now Rocket Mortgage. And, Rocket Mortgage, Rocket Companies, we're a 37-year startup, if you will. Our chairman and founder started what was called Rock Financial, then Quicken Loans, and now Rocket Mortgage. 37 years ago, Dan Gilbert, a lot of people know Dan from certainly Quicken and Rocket, but also as the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And, drafted LeBron, got LeBron back, lost him again, but, rolling towards the playoffs. And, we're a large company. We've got 20 some odd thousand team members, primarily in Detroit, but also Cleveland, Phoenix, Charlotte, around the country. We're actually a larger employer than General Motors in downtown Detroit, which is interesting. And we have over 100 companies within our portfolio. A lot of folks know us, obviously, for Rocket Mortgage, but and we also have other fintech brands, which we'll talk about, that we support here as the Rocket in-house marketing team. But we also own companies like StockX, right? If you know StockX, sneakers, the stock market of everything, sneakers, bags, shoes, collectibles, 100 Thieves and Esports, Dictionary, Thesaurus.com, Gas Station TV, Rob Report, Shinola. I mean, a lot of interesting companies within the portfolio, but the primary focus of us here at Rocket in downtown Detroit is in the fintech space, starting with mortgage, trying to help Americans achieve their American dream every single day.
I love that. I love that explanation. And I feel like Detroit is like the American dream. It's where, automobiles, you think of like hardworking people. I love Shinola. It's right here in the neighborhood in New York City. I own a watch from there. I love it. And yeah, it's great. And yeah, hey, you got LeBron back and they won a championship. That's awesome. Like, you love like Cleveland and Detroit. There's like, those are just areas.
They're very,
Yeah.
by flight, it's a 25-minute flight across the pond, 3 hours to drive it. But, so I'm a Detroit guy all the way through, but I'm a Cleveland guy on the secondary. And, you're right about Detroit, Vince. Like I'm a very typical Detroit kid in that my both my grandparents and my in-laws, they immigrated to the U.S. and they got jobs in the factory. The middle class was born in Detroit.
Yeah.
Back when Ford Motor Company and General Motors and Chrysler, I mean, that afforded a lot of people a middle class life. And that's where at certain points Detroit was 2.5, 3 million. The city was built to handle 2.5, 3 million. Obviously, the size is not there today, but that's also part of our story is being part of the urban renewal and rejuvenation of a great American city like Detroit. We've seen it, we've seen it out in New York and whether, Brooklyn, Harlem, and Chicago on the West Side. I mean, you can go around major metros around the U.S. and, and talk about those type of rejuvenation and renaissances. And we're in the midst of one right here in downtown Detroit. And it's awesome to work for a company and a culture that does so much for the city.
Yeah, absolutely. It does so much for the city in a variety of different ways, including, helping people, finance their dreams and live their dreams out of home ownership. So that's just one of the things, obviously, you do. But let's take a step back, Casey. We ask all of our guests this. It's one of our guests' favorite questions. There's about 2 or 3 questions that we ask all of our guests. But how'd you get started in marketing, right? CMO there for 6 years, which is obviously you're doing something great. It is something really good. Because, the CMO, that's longevity. That means you're making a difference there. How'd you get into this? Is it a straight path? Like, I studied marketing and here I am. It's usually not the case. Usually not the case. But tell us.
Yeah, great question. I'm actually a rarity, Vince, in that I was an advertising major in college, in which, it'll be 30 years actually next month. when I graduated from Michigan State. And, I go back, actually, I'm going up tomorrow. I'm on the alumni board for the College of Common Arts and Sciences. And you don't find many people that, they were advertising majors and 30 years in. A lot of times when you meet, senior level marketers, it wasn't a very clean path, if you will. And I started like everyone else right out of school, like, working for free. As a traffic coordinator, I used to send TV spots to, TV and radio stations back before there were computers. So we did things over fax and, some, computer system. Lord knows what the operating system was. But, people ask me a lot, Vince, like, well, did you want to be, and did you think you were going to be the answer a CMO? And the answer is no. And even though I've also been doing this for 30 years, Vince, what I also share with folks is like, I don't know what else I want to be when I grow up, and that's okay. I had this fallacy that when I graduated from school, someone's going to sit down with me and almost like process map out my life and my career. And I just met with a bunch of students from Michigan State. They were here the other day, and I was like, the first time anyone sits down with me and process maps out my life or my career, that will be the first day. And and people, well, how'd you get here? I'm like, you know what? A couple of things. One is, when I started in this business a long, long time ago, the world was a lot more simple. It was TV, radio, newspaper, right? The media world was very finite. And then obviously, as all of a sudden we started to ask ourselves, like, all right, outside of the dark web, could digital be used in e-commerce? And I was an early adopter of like, and I was in the automotive, like, whoa, how will people's mindsets start to shift with the internet when it comes to cars? I remember sitting in meetings 20 plus years ago, laughing at the notion that people will buy cars via the internet. We're like, well, we'd be surprised if people buy shoes. But you look back on those moments and you kind of chuckle to yourself. But over time, anytime the emerging technology, a new way of doing things, and the immersion of whatever it might be, I've always like, I want to learn. And how could this make me a better marketer? How could this help the business, the client, or whatever piece of business I'm working on? So, now as I sit here and I think about, I've done it all, and I'm second or third best at everything. I'm not first best at anything. That's what also being a leader, I think being a true leader is you surround yourself with others that are very, very good at what they do, and you serve them as a humble and a servant leader to help them do the best job they can to help either the business, the company, the client, or whatever it might be. So, I mean, it's just, that's where I don't freak out that, I don't know what I want to do next. I think sometimes when you talk with particularly younger people, they're like, I don't understand. I'm 25 and I'm like, calm down.
Yeah.
Like, it will be okay. Everything happens in life for a reason. I'm a firm believer in it.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way, and I'm, I knew I liked you because I'm unique in that sense too, where I actually studied, like I studied communications, broadcasting, marketing, and look, we're on a podcast right now that I'm hosting. It's like, yeah, we're doing everything. Where I did that, but still, I never feel like I know what I want to do when I grow up. I truly believe that. That's great advice. I'm glad you're giving back to your alma mater there, because we do have a lot of students who listen to this, and they always appreciate when people are doing that. So that's great. Casey, let's talk about different marketing channels, right? This is the marketing stir, so we get into the nitty gritty here. Obviously, people know Rocket Mortgage. You're watching television. You're watching the Super Bowl. We'll get into that in a moment. But what are some other channels that people might not know that Rocket Mortgage is in that have been working for you?
A great question, Vince. And I will tell you, I would be hard pressed for you to say, to give me a channel that we haven't been in, tested, or we're in the process of being, in which we're very blessed here at Rocket. Budgets are healthy. As you mentioned, people see us a lot. Share of voice is very strong. I'm very thankful that, our executive leadership, with Dan Gilbert and our CEO, Jay Farner and Bill Emerson, like they see the value of having a healthy brand, in which, we invest heavily in this brand. And when it comes to channels, we're again, knock on wood, even in these challenging times, we are a 365, 24/7 advertiser. We might not be as deep as we were a year or two ago, in some of the channels, but to answer your question, we're in all the channels, right? We're still primarily, if you will, a heavier linear broadcast marketer. We'll call it the traditional media channels, mid upper funnel in broadcast, linear audio, both terrestrial and streaming. We're investing more and more, obviously, in the connected OTT space. The world is going to much more one-to-one targeting. And then if you were to ask, like, hey, what's your TikTok? What's your TikTok strategy and emerging media? I am a big fan of testing and learning. I'll never forget, like 4 years ago, as I was watching TikTok, I was like, okay, I'm now at the point with TikTok where I don't feel like it's going to be a platform that has a moment in the sun and then then goes away. So what are we gonna do? And I gave my team, I don't know, $100,000, $200,000, something like that, and I was like, come back with a TikTok plan. You're not gonna screw up the brand. We're not gonna, we have to, why not learn now?
Yeah.
And I believe in what we'll call TikTok in the space at that time, like where that's going to go. Obviously, you've seen the other big portals try to, come with their own competitive products. And so I'm always a fan of, as we see emerging technologies come about, let's invest, let's test and learn. And we're not going to, worst comes to worst is we make an investment. It doesn't have a ROAS or maybe, it affects our CAC a little bit, but that's okay. How else are you going to know unless you try? And let's not be afraid to take some risks.
Yeah, we love that. And I know our listeners will love hearing that, because it's kind of, even in these uncertain times where people are like, well, what should I do? It's still test. You still have to.
How do you not, you don't know. I mean, people,
Exactly.
I can't tell you how many times, sit at conferences, as you mentioned, and people are like, well, game esports was one where we were very early into esports as a brand. And still, I sit in meetings and I'm like, how do you know unless you try?
Yeah.
What's the worst that's going to happen? I mean, you got, obviously it all depends on budgets and, blah, blah, blah. But man, unless jump in and learn, and that's the best way to find out.
And you have to. I mean, you look at something like TikTok, where I remember we were talking to a brand that it was very traditional brand, and we were like, "You're on TikTok?" They're like, "Yeah, this is the future bakers of the world. The These are this is the future. People are going to be buying. We're going to looking into mortgages in the future." So yeah, you got to try that. Let's talk about. We were fortunate to have about 4 or 5 companies on this podcast that have done Super Bowl commercials and have been in that space. And what was that like? I love as we were saying before, I love the one with Tracy Morgan in it. That was great. But are you part of that? Talk to me about your involvement in that and what that was like for Rocket Mortgage.
Yeah, I've been Vince. I've been fortunate. I think I've been fortunate to lead. I think 8 Super Bowl campaigns in my career. 3 or 4 at Fiat Chrysler, and then 4 here at Rocket. The first year we did here with Keegan Michael Key. The next, and then 2 years later with Tracy Morgan, and Jason Momoa with Get Comfortable. And then into 2022, we saw this earlier, right? With Barbie.
Yep.
Barbie and Anna Kendrick. And Super Bowl is no joke. It is easily the worst 60 seconds of my life, knock on wood, in the course of a year, and that it's 7-8 months of work and, not seeing my family and stressing, of which, that moment comes in the game and, America's got your vote. Yeah. And it is an arduous process. It's not for the faint of heart. It's very expensive, obviously. I mean, the average cost of a 60 plus the production, plus, the sides and the desserts that go along with a Super Bowl campaign, it's $20 million in 60 seconds if you really add it up. And, of course, what is that return on that? And, for us, the process usually starts in May or June. We're an in-house agency here, Vince. I've got 100 people in creative, and they pitch, but I also have external agencies pitch as well, of which, at the end of the day, if you're going to make that kind of investment, you have to be guaranteed you have the best idea for that platform. And we'll start off with about 150 ideas, and, over 3-4 rounds, we whittle it down. We ultimately, we get to a point where we've got a very short list and we're trying to line up talent and, directors, whatever it might be. And you ultimately go with one, and then it's hold your breath. And then, hold your breath and go for it. I mean, again, it's a monumental undertaking for a brand. If you think about it, there's only 65 brands that advertise every Super Bowl, and like CMOs jobs are won and lost the next day. And I wake up when I leave to come to the office, because I don't go to the game if we're in the game. I'm here. I work. We run a 50-person war room. Digital, social, PR until about 3 o'clock in the morning every Super Bowl. And
Wow.
when I kiss my wife and kids goodbye that day, I tell them, I go, just let you know, I got a 50-50 shot of hopefully I'll still be the CMO here tomorrow morning, but America will tell us.
Yeah, no, oh wow, because that was going to be my next question, Casey. He's like, are you at these games? But
No,
it's almost like, as the
no.
NFL draft is, coming and going here. It's you're in the war room. I love that.
Yeah,
That's
I
yeah,
put too much work in. I put too much work in to go to the game and enjoy myself. I have hundreds of people here that have been part of the process, and I'm here with the team to work and to celebrate here together.
yeah.
I don't need to be in I love going to the Super Bowl. Make no mistake.
Mhm.
I went this year. We weren't in the game. I went this year to enjoy myself, and it was pretty stress free. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I got the itch. I love the Super Bowl itch.
Yeah, no, well, let me just tell you, those are very memorable commercials. You're knocking it out of the park. That's awesome. Thanks for giving us a peek under the hood there. Also, so Casey, Rocket Mortgage, right? Now, the, you know, mortgage industry, interest rates, right? You've been hearing a lot of this. How has Rocket Mortgage been able to kind of combat that and stay ahead of the competition, stay different from the competition?
Another great question. I mean, obviously, we're America's largest retail lender. We're fortunate we know that really rolled out in our Super Bowl in 2018. And make no mistake, 20 and 21 were pretty good years, right? I mean, interest rates,
Hmm.
dropped to historic lows, and you saw a wide rush when it came to refinancing. The housing market is still very, equity and people in equity in homes. Now, granted, obviously interest rates have been going the other way, if you will, since really Q1, Q2 of last year. And so that makes it more of a challenging market for refinance, but the housing market and the ability for people to build wealth through equity or using equity to remodel or whatever it might be is still very strong. So the purchase market is still, that's a large focus for us. And what we're excited about here at Rocket, and it's a story we continue to tell. We're much more than mortgage. I mean,
Yeah.
we're a non-bank lender, obviously, but we also have Rocket Homes, which is buying and selling a home, working with real estate agents. We have Rocket Loans, which is personal loans. We have an organization, a company that we acquired and rebranded to Rocket Money, which is personal finance. We just launched a credit card 60 days ago, which has the best in class rewards program for first time home buyers and existing home buyers, where you can help, you know, put 5% for first time home buyers towards a new home, or for existing homeowners, 2% cash back towards your principal. So those are exciting things that were not just mortgage. And so as if you
Yeah.
think about, the 5, 7, 10 years, but either first time home buyers or folks that are maybe in between, we have so many different products and services within the Rocket portfolio that we can help our clients along their, financial
Yeah.
journey.
That's amazing. What's the name of that credit card, Casey?
The Rocket card.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, just launched it 3 weeks ago, and it's going really well. And I said it's an opportunity for people to either build up credit or utilize their spending to rack up rewards and dollars to go towards a new home or existing mortgage principal, which that's pretty unique, right? I mean, it's all about value, building
Definitely.
value and using those rewards to make your life better.
No, I love to hear that, and I wanted to get that out to the listeners there. So, marketing goals this year, right? We're into going into Q2. You talked about a little bit about some of the marketing strategies, but what are some of the goals for the Rocket companies this year?
Yeah. From a brand standpoint, I mean, it's obviously a challenging marketplace. Where, obviously refinance is not as prolific as it has in the past, but certainly home purchase. And we're, here we are in April, and we are right on the cusp of the home buying season. And so, the focus there on purchase. So when we talk about goals, certainly from a brand standpoint, we're very fortunate with the amount of money we do spend, and we have high level of awareness, right, and share of voice, which is fantastic. But when it comes to this, let's be honest, this is not a QSR brand. This isn't a packaged goods. This is a mortgage, an intangible product that you can't taste, feel, drive, wear, whatever it might be. And people are very emotional, obviously, as it comes to the first or second largest purchase they'll ever make. So for us, we want to make sure that our brand dollars and our brand spend help improve like brand a positive opinion and consideration. So as folks are thinking about if they're looking to get to home ready or buy or sell a home, obviously as they have their short list of brands, ideally we want to continuously improve our positive opinion and consideration. But quite honestly, the vast majority of our spend is on acquisition, right? Top of the top middle of the funnel acquisition, where ideally we're able to have that conversation with a prospective client, and if she or they are not ready, well, as I mentioned earlier, all the products and services that we do have, we're able to have that nurturing conversation. So going back to whether that's SMS, email, one-to-one targeting, direct mail, whatever it might be, like how do we create almost like personalized communication plans for our clients, no matter where they are in their journey? I mean, the world that we're in is going to much more of a one-to-one, we'll call targeting, but also one-to-one communications. We all want to be able to have that high level of personalization through a consumer journey.
Yeah. And I know this is also very important to you, Casey, that in Rocket, you're constantly doing great things, providing fairness, equitable access to mortgages for all customers, regardless of their background, right, or financial institutes, financial situation, excuse me. How important is that to you? And I know it remains important, but talk to me about that.
Yeah, well, it goes without saying, beyond important, is we think about inclusivity, and making sure that we as an organization, one is from a mortgage company, but also we have a more than profit philosophy here at Rocket Companies, Vince, where we part of our for more than profit philosophy is we believe in education, helping address homelessness, and making sure, like a great example is our chairman and founder committed $500 million to the city of Detroit. And Dan and Jennifer, and one of the first things they did as part of this endowment, if you will, to the city, they went and I'll call it erased, but they eradicated tax liens for hundreds, if not thousands, of residents in the city of Detroit that otherwise they wouldn't be able to climb out underneath maybe some debt and be able to further chase and experience the American dream. So we also have programs in some of the urban cores, Detroit, one of them, where to encourage Detroit residents and offer residents that may need additional assistance to have additional funding, resourcing, and resources to help get home ready. And so that's a very important part of it, in financial literacy. And quite honestly, one of the most important things we're doing here in the city of Detroit, the pandemic shined an unfortunate light, Vince, that if you remember the height of the pandemic, and Detroit at the time, this is unfathomable, only 40% of Detroit residents have internet access. Wow. And if you think about how that affects children, adults for job search, and everybody from 5 to 85 for telemed. And so one of the things that is part of for more than profit philosophy here in Detroit, I'm proud to say, is now we're up to 70% digital inclusivity in the city of Detroit. And that's one of our key initiatives that we have here at Rocket Companies, is how to bring internet access to the urban cores. Yeah. And it's just helping rise all the ships. So that's a long way around of, like, there are many programs that it's core to who we are. It's, helping the community, but also, clients that, help them get ready, if you will, if they're not in a position to be ready to, help, achieve their dream of being a homeowner.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I love hearing that. And again, I love the focus on Detroit and the United States. I love that. That's great. And you're right. And how do people, do schooling during those times when you don't have internet access and you can't? It's virtual, which is tough to begin with, and now it's like.
I mean, that was an unfortunate spotlight that wasn't. Detroit was not, it was not exclusive to Detroit.
No.
I mean, you saw that all around the country, particularly with children that had to go home and they didn't have internet access or they didn't have hardware. It's not just internet access, but it's also hardware. It's also having digital literacy, in that, that to me, that's a good thing that has come out of the pandemic. Is it really fast forwarded a lot of planning and effort and investment in cities across this country that were woefully behind with having digital inclusivity.
Yeah, exactly. Some lighter questions, Casey, on the
Yeah.
personal side, right? So this is the question that people love the most on the marketing
Okay.
stir. People come up to me all the time and said, this is great. I teach my salespeople this now. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're a CMO, major company. You probably LinkedIn. You probably get so many unsolicited messages to get your attention. What is one that actually gets your attention, and what is one that you just hate, or more than one that you just hate out there?
Yeah, it's I am my wife will tell you, and my assistant will tell you, I'm overactive when it comes to social media. I'm more of a mid adopter, but I enjoy it. Like I use Facebook more personally, and Instagram more from a personal standpoint.
Same.
I love LinkedIn. People ask me all the time, like, why do you use so much time? Why do you spend so much time on LinkedIn? And I go, well, one is like it's the world, it's the Rolodex that you and I grew up with. Like I still have a shoebox of hundreds of business cards. One of these days I'll figure out what to do with it. But I've always used, that's my virtual Rolodex. But man, I learned so much on LinkedIn, and I love engaging, and I love doing storytelling. I love sharing, who I am and what I'm blessed enough to do here at Rocket with, in the LinkedIn community. But I get a lot of messages, make no mistake. I go through them 2-3 times a day. What grabs your attention? What grabs your attention are those that you can tell they've spent the time to understand who you are. They've researched the company, or they understand the brand, and they're trying to bring forth an idea, a thought, a case study, or something that is very relatable to your brand or your company. The ones that make my eyes roll in the back of my head are the ones that say, it looks like you may be, according to my blah blah blah, you may be in charge of marketing or whatever. And it's like, if not, can you please point me toward? It's very like spammy.
Yeah.
But I engage quite a bit. I don't answer every email. I try. I try, or I'll pick up things or I'll inquire, or I'll pass them on to teams. Like a functional area. I'm like, hey, check this out. Like I really saw this really cool way of content development, or hey, have you seen this influence, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I get hit up a lot, but I use a lot too. Like people laugh, but when we're in the Super Bowl every year, or when we have in the past, I LinkedIn bomb in that I figure out who's in the Super Bowl. Let's say there's 65 advertisers, and if I know some people, great, for conferences, what have you. But I literally send emails to CMOs all over the country because I'm like, hey, I see you're with whatever, Dunkin' Donuts, and we're going to be in the game. You're in the game. Hey, you want to do some banter the day of? I saw your spot release. I'll show you mine. We don't release ours. So I use it a lot to network and to bounce ideas off of it. I'm fortunate that, via conferences or doing these types of things, I've got to know other CMOs. I just had dinner last night with a Cadillac CMO, of which, we just talked to marketers, just talking about, wins, losses, pain points, and bouncing ideas off of each other. And forums like LinkedIn and stuff like that are a great opportunity. But yeah, like people laugh, like the stuff you can get. What do people tell you? I'm curious. What is like the most common? What is the most common thing your guests say?
The common thing, like no one. Here's something they never say, Casey. They're like, oh, just send me 12 messages and I'll respond. You keep sending me that email saying like, A, you don't want to talk. B, you're busy. It's like the more personalized. Everyone says that. I always give my opinion because some people are like, well, what's yours? I'm like, well, I don't like when it's different fonts. Hi, Vincent. And then it's like a different, I'm like, come on, man. And, or get my name right. You don't have to get my last name right. That's Pietrofessa. I get it. But get Vincent right. Don't call me Peter. Don't mess up my name.
No, my favorite is when I get ones that don't have my name right. I don't know why. It just like I'll reply, I'm like, who the hell's Peter? And tell him to stop. Like, I'll do something really funny just to see if I get a response.
Yeah.
Like, because I know someone's embarrassed or mortified, or it's, it's some Salesforce or CRM tool that kicked
so
it
this
out.
like implements. I know sometimes
Yeah,
it's
I'm like, fix your tool.
Yeah, it's like, hi, Vincent, VP of product. I'm like, well, wait, why? No one talks like that. No one puts my title in a conversation. That would be crazy. So, Casey, what about hobbies? I know you're a big sports fan. You love Detroit. I think Detroit Lions are on the up and coming. They beat the Giants this year. I was very mad at that. I'm a big New York Giants fan.
And the Jets.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that.
That's all right.
I'm not mad at that at all. But but what do you like to do in your spare time? Some hobbies?
I'm a big sports guy, as you mentioned. I've and my kids, I got a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old, and the 16-year-old is too cool for school with me, and so now I hang with my 12-year-old primarily, and thankfully, it's been just the last couple of years. I've been able to turn him into a sports guy, thank God, because I was starting to go to things by myself. And so we love traveling and going to sporting events. I'm a father of 2 teenage kids, so family and spending time with them is very important to me. And what do I personal things? I'm 51 years old and I've gone through my waves of things. I'm really starting to play a ton of paddle tennis, which is great for old dudes like me. There's not as much running north and south, east and west. Michigan here, you get about 3 good months of golf, and so I broke out the sticks this weekend, and I'll play once a week, maybe on weekends. There's nothing better than 4 hours with friends or people to get to just spend some quality time. But quite honestly, it's I'm fortunate. I'm blessed enough to be married for 24 years and have 2 great kids, and I really just enjoy spending time with my family. I work hard, work long hours, but that's where those times together are important.
Yeah, no, I love hearing that. I echo that. I have 2 boys. I don't know if you said boy. You said once.
A boy, a girl, and a boy.
Yeah, I have 2 kids, 2 little boys, and they keep me busy. I have a 6 and a 3-year-old, and I live in New York City, and everything the same. It's you work hard, but you long hours, but you enjoy your time with them, and just starting to do the whole sporting events with them. Until in a few years, Casey, then they tell me they're not interested in any of it anymore.
Yeah, you got about 6 years left with the one. Once they hit about 12 or 13, my daughter, she's 17 now, and we primarily communicate through a door or text message. So.
Yeah, I know. I also have that. Right now, what I do is I probably shouldn't do this. I'll tell my oldest. I was like, "Oh, you don't want to come with me? I'll just take Hayden with me." He's like, "No." And,
that only works for a little bit, and then you get then it's they don't care.
Yeah, they're like, "Fine, take them. I don't care. I'll go with my friends." I'm like, "What?" Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's tough, but.
Casey, last question that I'd love to ask you in particular. What do you think makes a great leader?
I talked a little bit about it earlier. And this is the world according to Casey. And you could talk to people that have been led by me or have witnessed my leadership and could refute it or give you a counterpoint. I believe I'm a big observer in that. I love watching a room. I like watching people operate. And that I've felt like I've been very fortunate. I was talking about this the other day. Mentorship. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've never once, gone up to a human and said, "Vince, will you be my mentor?" Like I was talking to college kids about this, and I'm like, they're like, "Oh, mentorship." I'm like, "Yes, it's very important, and you will have a mentor your whole life." But I've never asked one human to be my mentor. I've either when younger in my career, I would watch senior leadership, right? And they were my mentor. They didn't know it, but I was observing them and And I've seen some great ones and I've seen some really shitty ones, right? We all are around leaders that are very good, very bad, or in the middle. And so I believe over the years, I became a leader at a young age. I was 27 years old. I was a vice president at the agency, and I was leading people that were older than me, and in some cases had been in business longer than I'd been alive. That was a humbling experience. All of a sudden leading 10, 15 people that were older and in some cases, 30 years of experience. That was humbling to start with. And I really believe over the years, my leadership style continues to evolve. I believe in being humble. I believe in being a servant leader, in that I believe the role of a leader is to be the best coach, teacher, leader, feedback giver, listener, and not be afraid to tell your friends or a colleague or someone that works for you or even your leader that he, she, or they have food on their face. Yeah. And be honest. If you, and be honest. And even the other thing too is, I've found myself evolving or with different generations. I remember when I was the Gen X guy, right? And the boomers thought, the end of the world was coming around because the Gen Xers were running around. And, now I'm that guy. Now I'm the Gen X looking at,
Me too.
Not the millennials, but the Ys and the Zs and, what's after that. And my leadership style has had to evolve because how I lead necessarily doesn't, it doesn't always relate. May not be relatable to the younger generation.
Yeah.
And so how can I best relate to them? Because what motivates you might not motivate a 25-year-old, that's 2 years out of school and he's here there trying to find their footing in a company or a culture. And so I learn a lot from the younger generations. Like I want to learn, like, how do you want to be led? How do you want to be interacted with? How do you want to receive feedback? Those times have changed. And if you don't, and I believe as a leader, if you don't evolve and if you don't constantly try and, evolve and change or take the feedback to adjust your leadership, you got to be careful.
That's great advice, Casey. Yeah, no, I'm a Gen Xer myself, and now that I take on a bigger leadership role here at Stirista, it's trying to relate to different people. I feel like there's people who are older than me, a different generation here. There's those millennials, Gen Z, and then I go home and then I talk to a 6 and a 3-year. It's just relating. I love the advice. We love talking to you, Casey. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here at Stirista and the Marketing Stir. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Casey Hurbis. He's the Chief Marketing Officer at Rocket Mortgage. Check out Rocket Mortgage. You know who they are, of the Rocket companies. I'm Vincent Petrofessa. AJ's in Boston. He'll be back. This has been an episode of the Marketing Stir. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista. Please like, rate, and subscribe. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, please email us at themarketingstir@stirista.com. And thanks for listening.